podcast, all types of fun stuff. The preseason, we're through week 1. First off, Zach Wilson almost tore his ACL in week 1 of the preseason. Is he a bust?
I think it's a little too soon to say that, but we're definitely not trending in the right direction. Because at this point, now he's going to miss the entire preseason. And what ended up being a meniscus tear, right? Yeah. I mean, he probably, I think I read something that he'll probably be about 90% week 1. I just don't have a whole lot of hope for him. I'd rather have Davis Mills. Hell, I'd almost rather have Jared Goff as a very desperate 1 quarterback league play, or a 3rd quarterback really in a 2 quarterback league is kind of where I'm trending there. I don't think he's a bust quite yet, but he's got to do a major turnaround, I think.
Yeah, he's had a PCL sprained in that same knee last year. I'm not really a fan of Zach Wilson. It's very Jetsy for that to happen, though. After Mekhi Becton's out for the year, too.
Yeah, it's also bad because they really don't have a strong offensive line.
No, they needed him. He was going to be a big deal on the right side of that line in terms of running the ball. All right.
Not good, but they did go get Dwayne Brown, I saw.
Which is a good plug-and-play. He's a good plug-and-play.
It'll buy you a year.
So, jumping right in. News or noise? First one. ESPN's Pryor writes, the Steelers' undrafted rookie, Jaylen Warren, who's a running back, looks like he has real staying power, then backs it up with a good practice today, a good showing this Sunday or Saturday whenever they played in their preseason game. Do you think Jaylen Warren could be the guy in Pittsburgh to spell Najee?
to maybe hold his water bottle. It's you can't really read too much into that. They got a guy, barring an injury. I don't think he's even a name we'll ever repeat. To me, it's just one of those things where some beat reporter's trying to make a name for himself by putting out a story. Granted, I haven't seen any of the tape, but I also haven't read that anywhere else. So to me, I'm going to go noise. I just feel there's too much invested in Najee. Now, I know you think he's about 2 steps away from a retirement home, which may or may not be true, but at this point, I don't see any validation to that.
Yeah, the only reason I even brought it up was because this is a potentially advantageous backup running back area to target. But as long as Najee's healthy, which I really don't think is going to be an issue this year, he hasn't had that as an issue really throughout his career. I don't think it really matters much. But they have Benny Snell there. They have it's a bunch of just mediocre running backs. So I don't really think I'd want any of them if Najee was hurt, honestly.
No, and their offensive line still isn't much better. It's not like, it's not like a situation where it's if you're talking about a stacked offensive line in a system that anyone could succeed in, maybe we'd be having a different conversation. But they're just a little too weak there, and you add in the quarterback carousel that's going on there. If Najee got hurt, I just wouldn't want any part of it, really.
Yeah, that line is really bad. All right, more fun one. Cleveland Plain Dealer reports the Browns will consider acquiring Jimmy Garoppolo if Deshaun Watson's suspension is increased from 6 games. Is Jimmy Garoppolo that much better than Jacoby Brissett is my first question.
Yeah.
My second is, why did they trade Baker Mayfield? Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker, they're not the same guy, but they're close.
I think Jimmy Garoppolo will go out and win more games for you. I think they traded Baker because Baker wasn't going to play for and that's understandably so, given the situation. He's playing on his 5th year, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I think he is. He's playing on his 5th year. They basically cut off contract talks, and all of a sudden they trade for another guy. He's that kind of guy. He's not going to play for him. I think that's why they traded him. Now, here's the deal is if you could get him for a Baker Mayfield type of trade, like a bag of peanuts, and which is basically what it's going to have to be if they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, because he's got a decent amount of money left on his contract, I feel like. It's going to have to be like a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, conditional pick, probably at that. So if they could get him for that, if they just really feel like they are in a position to be ultra competitive, which I do not, I don't think that they are even a top 5 team in that conference, to be real honest with you. It would make sense, and I think Jimmy Garoppolo could take the Browns to the playoffs, but I just don't really see it going any further than that.
Yeah, I hypothetically like Garoppolo in the offense or whatnot. I'm still not so sure he gets traded. I mean, Lance has looked good, but Kyle Shanahan likes options. I ultimately think that Lance will start the whole year, but I'm just curious to see how this all works. I'm curious to see if Deshaun gets a year still. They're going to appeal the decision. It's out there Roger wants a year, but I really wonder if that's going to be the case. I've heard 12 games and $5 million in a fine.
God damn. Yeah, I read something, Roger wants a year. Deshaun's camp obviously wants a settlement of some sort, which I think has been their deal from the beginning. I think they've always wanted a settlement because they knew they didn't really hold a lot of cards, in the situation. So, you think 6 games is the threshold. Like he's not going to play the first 6 games of the year. And I think Cleveland plays Houston week 7, so if they could at least just up it to 7, that'd be cool too. But no, I think you're right. I think it'll end up being a year sooner or later. And really, what you think about it, you get Deshaun back for 5 games. Say Jacoby Brissett goes 4-8, you're not making the playoffs. I mean, what does it fucking matter at that point? You do more damage to yourself throwing him out there for those 5 games, risking tearing an ACL or something like that. I mean, you might as well just realize that this isn't your year. I think the smarter move would be to trade for Jimmy G and at least to some extent give yourself a competitive edge. I mean, Jimmy G's a winner. That's what he is. He's not going to blow the stat sheet off the clipboard, but he's going to go out there and win games. He might go, 18 completions for 143 yards, a touchdown, and 3 picks, but somehow they're going to win that game.
Yeah.
That's just who he is. He's always been that guy.
That is Jimmy G. News or noise, Deshaun Watson is not the same quarterback as he was with Houston after sitting out effectively 1.5 to 2 years in a new offense.
Oh, I agree. I mean, you can do all the strength and conditioning and all that, but you've seen those guys. It takes them a while to get. I mean, you think about Michael Vick when he was out for a couple of years and he came back. Now he ended up still being good at the end of the day, but it took him a while to readapt. I mean, unless you've just got a defensive lineman buddy of yours that wants to hit you every now and then, you can train all you want, but you can't replicate that game, that game situation. And you've heard coaches talking about it all offseason. They'll throw people in the preseason just for shits and fucking. I mean, they fucking let Josh Jacobs play like a whole quarter, just to just to get those real reps in, because that's something you can't simulate in practice. You can, and I think 2 years out, everything that's been going on, I bet there's some mental strain there. I bet there's new offense, and I bet you anything, I really think that it goes deeper with the Browns. I think Deshaun was like, I'm going to come here, but you need to get rid of this Stefanski guy. This is one of my deep collusion things. I think ultimately Brian Flores ends up being the coach of the Browns. I think it was a thing. I think he's like, I'll come, but you got to get rid of this white guy. Bring my guy over, but make it look like an accident type of thing. That's what I think's going on, but that's neither here nor there. But I have receipts for when it happens.
I don't think it's too far-fetched. I really don't. All right, number 3, Sky Moore and Isaiah Pacheco both have flashed major potential in this Chiefs offense. News or noise, Isaiah Pacheco will finish in the top 40 running backs this year.
Oh, I mean, I'm gonna go news because it's probably gonna happen. Here's my thing.
Yeah, top 30.
Not top.
Okay.
I mean, no, we're probably not top 30, but top 40s definitely do. I mean, Jesus. To me, I think the Kansas City running game is very interesting for a lot of reasons. And it could go really 3 different ways, and it really wouldn't surprise me at all. The least likely of the options is Clyde Edwards-Helaire leads the backfield. I'm not saying it won't happen, but that's the least likely to me out of all of it. Andy Reid doesn't give a shit about draft stock. He doesn't give a shit about how a guy came on the team. Kareem Hunt was absolutely fuck all nobody and led the league in rushing. So, granted, Kareem Hunt's still a good football player. None of that means anything to him, which makes this interesting. So I don't care that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a first-round pick. He ain't working out. He's got potential. To me, he's just a bad fit for that team. You take Clyde Edwards-Helaire and you put him on. I'm trying to think of like the Chargers. It'd be a different situation because Herbert will make that check down pass where Mahomes won't. And that's really the biggest difference of it. Ronald Jones, I think, in my opinion, is the most likely to go out there and lead that team because he is still a good football player. He just looked like someone Bruce Arians didn't like. I really don't. He fumbled like twice, and we never fucking saw him. So, still a talented football player. I think he really fits what they actually need in Kansas City. But there's some rumblings about this Pacheco guy, and he might be it. He might sneak in there as a dark horse guy. If you're talking about like a 20 to 30 round Superflex dynasty, doesn't matter. To me, it ain't a bad thing to throw a dart that late on a guy like that because it might turn around and be a Kareem Hunt.
He's gotten some crazy hype. He got drafted in all these playoff drafts we just did in like the 16th round, which I felt was bad high.
Yeah, I just got Paulie's playoff, by the way. That has turned out to be one of the toughest drafts that I've been a part of in a long time because the only good thing is that there's so many people that are so up with it that it's not like Scott Fishbowl where there's 3,000 fuckers. I mean, I love Scott Fishbowl, but 3,000 people that some know what they're doing, some don't. Like, I feel like in this draft, a lot of people knew a lot of things, and I really wish they did. Because you're sitting on the board and you're like, okay, I got 3 picks. I hope this happens and I get this guy. And that's usually, I'm looking, I'm like, where am I at? What could I get? And usually I'm like, okay, I want this player. And I swear to God, I've gotten sniped either one or two picks before me in damn near every round. And the only good thing about that is it's a lot of people who do know, so they've got sleepers and they've just reached entirely too far on them, which sucks because, like, I'm a big Dameon Pierce guy. That's a guy that I'm in on hard, and he went in like the 11th round or 10th round, far too early. Hated to miss him, but you also got to understand relative value. And yeah, sucks to suck, but I wouldn't have took him there. But in the same sense, I got Jamison Crowder in the 17th round, so they're sleeping a little bit on some people. You just got to take value where you can get it. But back to the main point, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate throwing a late round pick at it, especially if it's a team where God damn it, especially if it's a team where you have, you always punt one position. That's just the way it ends up going. If it's a team where you are forced to punt running back and you got to pick late, why not take Pacheco? Is that how you say it? Pacheco?
I thought it was Pacheco, but I might be wrong.
Pacheco? I have no fucking idea. Hopefully he's good enough to make me remember how to say his name.
Yeah, you always worry with these like camp. You remember Tony Jones?
You remember Gerhardt?
Who?
Yeah. Remember Toby Gerhardt? He was Adrian Peterson's backup.
Yes.
And Jacksonville signs him. He had this electrifying camp. I mean, we're talking, I think that year I drafted him. I know I did. And he was, we're not talking like first round kind of talent, but we're talking like second running back in the third, fourth round type of guy, and just absolutely shit the bed. This was years ago. I mean, we might be close to 10 years ago at this point, but Toby Gerhardt, he was at Stanford, white guy, just filled in for Adrian Peterson a couple games one year, goes to Jacksonville. Yeah, complete fucking disaster. Yep, shit the bed.
And yeah, Ronald Jones, I'm curious. Everyone's talking about him like he's a cut candidate, but in my head, if Pacheco's this amazing third down running back who's super fast and runs hard, don't they need Ronald Jones? He's their thumper. I don't know. I'm not Andy Reid. All right.
I couldn't see Ronald Jones being a cut candidate. I mean, if they do, I'm running to the waiver wire and grabbing Pacheco because something is to be said about that.
Pacheco got a carry with. I think people kind of overlook this preseason usage, but he did get a carry inside the 10-yard line with Patrick Mahomes on the field. Rojo didn't get the ball to the third quarter
because he'll fumble it.
All right, piece number 4, one I'm none too proud of. Patriots offense has been approaching the point of concern as this unit continues to struggle far into camp under Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. News or noise, New England is going to win over 8 games this year. I'll start. Noise. We're going to lose less. No, we're going to lose more. We're going to lose a lot. We're so fucked.
Yeah.
We're so fucked.
Yeah, that division got a lot better. And I think that's a lot of the problem is Miami, in my opinion, if Tua takes that step, they could be a playoff team.
They're good.
Buffalo, in my mind, should probably be the, if you're going to pick a preseason Super Bowl winner, it's probably Buffalo.
Yeah, they're good.
They're gonna, they're a great team.
Not worried about the
Jets, no, they're not going to sneak up on you or anything. But someone's got to be in last place in that division. But yeah, if I was going over under, if the line was 7.5, man, I think I'd have to go under.
Yeah, it's rough. They
have a weird culture, and it's worked so far, but you can't go into the season and Bill Belichick be the GM, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the defensive like you can't wear that many hats. And I love Bill Belichick as a coach, but god damn. And why is Matt Patricia, like, he was the defensive coordinator, right? When he was with New England, he's always been a defensive guy. What got up that guy's ass to make him decide, maybe I'll fucking try offense? Like,
Bill Belichick told him he could.
well, yeah, I mean, they need to, as bad as it is, make Joe Judge the offensive coordinator, make the weird brother or son or whatever the defensive coordinator, and let him see what happens. I mean, because a day is going to come when Bill Belichick retires, and that franchise is going to be completely fucked.
Yeah, especially with McDaniels gone. I didn't even like that guy towards the end. I really did. But
he worked, right? He fit.
Yeah, he was competent.
Right.
And you take that over Joe Judge and Matt Patricia.
And I really thought Bill O'Brien was on the way back. I really thought.
I would have preferred that. He wasn't a bad coach. He was a terrible GM.
Right. He was a good coach. That's true.
All right. We're going to skip over to our flag plants and our fades. Tonight, we're doing running backs. Kaden, you're starting out. Your first flag plant is Aaron Jones. Tell me about Aaron Jones for 2022.
So here's what the light bulb that went off for me the second they traded Devontae Adams was, holy shit, that's a lot of fucking targets that are vacated, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably 140 to 160 targets just up for grabs now, roughly. Somewhere in that ballpark. I don't have the exact stat in front of me.
159-ish, 169-ish, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in that range. That's a shitload of targets, and they're gonna do it. I mean, that's the thing that I've always said about Aaron Rodgers is he's gonna do Aaron things. He don't really care who's out there. I mean, you could line up out left, I could line up out right, and I bet one of us is probably gonna make the Pro Bowl. That's just how good he is. And to me, he's already proven over the years that he's a competent runner. But I think he's got elite pass catching usage on the way. It's loading. It's loading right now. I mean, we could see a 1,000-yard rusher and a 1,000-yard receiver. That is within the range of outcomes, I feel like, for Aaron Jones. I can't pound the boards hard enough for a guy like that. Hopefully none of our league mates are watching this, so someone tries to fuck me in the draft. But maybe they do. It is what it is. But to me, like, there's just there's a lot of potential there. And Aaron's got this thing, They go out, they get Romeo Doubs, they get Christian Watson, and Aaron's got his boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron Jones is one. Aaron is going to be a thing this year. And I mean, I thought back to that game. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but I was playing someone who had Aaron Jones, and that son of a bitch had like 4 receiving touchdowns by half. And so it's possible. It's something that could happen. So. Especially where he's going, I've seen him kind of go in that. He's not going in that first run of running backs, but, if you're talking about him, he's going in that range of like Saquon, Aaron Jones, and Zeke. Those 3 guys are going right around the same, like, 3rd round time, 3rd to 4th round type of grab. Do yourself a favor and go get Aaron Jones.
Yeah, he's by far the best running back in that category. I'm really high on Jones, too. The target share is going to be huge, I think. I don't mind that A.J. Dillon is there. I think I've come to an epiphany with running backs that if you're good in a good offense, I'll prefer you being in a split, staying healthy, than getting 90% of the work, especially if you're 26 or 27 like Aaron Jones is, and potentially carrying the injury risk. So I do like that. Something else that I didn't even realize, you would think with an A.J. Dillon around, Aaron Jones, red zone goal line work's going to be faded down more. He actually finished 9th in the NFL in 2021 red zone opportunities with 47. So he's still getting the valuable inside the 20 work. He's still catching a lot of passes, and you're getting him at a discounted rate. It's all in ebb and flow. Last year, Aaron Jones was getting drafted way above RB10, which is the ADP right now. Right now at ADP, I love him. He's my favorite out of that. Leonard Fournette, Saquon. Yeah. I like him more than Swift, and I know everyone loves Swift this year, but Jones is really a guy who's a great value.
He's one of the safest picks you can make at running back, especially in that 3rd to 4th round range, without a doubt.
You're getting him at his floor. My first flag plant. Really excited about this guy. I've tried to stay quiet on him for most of the offseason in the worry that maybe he shows up to camp, looks bad, but I'm ready to fully commit. James Cook is going to be a fucking monster in the Buffalo offense. Ken Dorsey's the creative offensive coordinator. Already camp reports out that he's been opening eyes with his athleticism and playmaking. 4.3 speed with Josh Allen. They've let him play in the slot. He adds something, and I think, he's going to be a guy like all rookie running backs. You're not going to play him week 1 probably.
No.
Or week 2. It's probably going to take 8 or 9 weeks, but
I was just about to say week 10. Week 10, you start him in. Yeah, dude.
He does things that Devin Singletary just can't. And in this offense where you have Josh Allen and Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs and like all these weapons, how do you deal with that and then deal with the 4-4-2 dude coming out of the backfield?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, when I say this, I don't think that it's apples to apples, but he has a Kamara/Swift type of upside where he's going to maybe not get as many carries, but see 5, 6, 7 targets a game in high usage situations and high value situations. I really like James Cook. I think he's a value he's going at RB35 as an RB3 or 4. That's perfect. I'll take that and milk him until the end of the year. Don't trade him.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's one you gotta grab and hang on to because, especially if you're in a dynasty league, if you can get a piece of that dynasty, dynasty is all about, what the player's value is at the moment. And if you can buy low and turn it into a situation where you can sell high, even if you got to sit on it for a while, you got to grow that. You got to grow that value. He's a guy that I feel like, obviously not in our dynasty league because you slid in there and grabbed him before I could. But he was an end of the first round type of guy, and that is insane value. Insane value because he's going to go out there and Buffalo's looking real dangerous because you got Dawson Knox, you got O.J. Howard, you got Gabe Davis, you got Jameson. You do not have enough defensive backs who can cover all these people. I don't give a shit. I don't care what team we're talking about. You don't have enough. If you think you do, you need about 3 more. Because they could potentially roll out there 2 tight ends, 3 receivers, and just blast you. And James Cook's the guy that you're going to forget about.
I was just about to say there's levels to it. What are you going to do when James Cook's on the field? Do you put in a smaller sub-package backer to try to deal with him, but then play light in the run front? Or do you go heavy and just allow a one-on-one matchup against a slow fucker? What do you do there? You can't, especially with all those weapons you just mentioned.
Yeah, you can't. There's no team in the league that could defend that offense. For me, Josh Allen's probably the one of one when just so everybody knows, FanDuel is opening up in Kansas. We legalized gambling. We're going to make that at least a small part of our content once it opens in Kansas. But if I was going to make one bet right now, I would run and make Josh Allen the MVP pick. If whatever the odds are, I would at least throw a little something on that because, I mean, there's no way that he fumbles that hard. He's got so many options, such a good offensive line. James Cook, he's going to be dangerous. And for me, like, I really feel like, so in my opinion, you got to get a couple running backs early in the draft. That's just the way it's always been, the way it's got to go. Outside of that, though, before I'm going to take let's say before I'm going to take an Alex Madison or a Tony Pollard or a backup guy, I'm going to take a James Cook and see what happens. Even if, you know what I mean? Because James Cook, Dameon Pierce, those kind of guys are the ones that I would love to get my hands on as a third. Because there's very realistic opportunities for both those guys to produce at a starting running back level year one.
Mm-hmm. I'm in complete agreement. It's something I really shifted to this offseason is trying to grab at those late running back spots, like after RB 25, 26, just upside. There's no reason not to. Yeah. All right, your next flag plant. We've talked about this guy a lot. Travis Etienne. Why are you loving Travis Etienne so much this year?
I can't get enough of it because his ADP hasn't really shifted a whole lot. And I just can't believe how asleep some people are on that potential. I mean, every single reason we liked DeAndre Swift last year, this year, we got to come at ETN with that same energy. You know what I'm saying? There's not a lot of differences between the two besides ETN, in my opinion, is in a better situation. Better situation for what he does, and there's a lot more chemistry with a better quarterback. So 4th-ish round, I think, is where his ADP is at right now, somewhere in that range. 13?
16. So, yeah, 4th-ish round.
4th, 5th round, I mean, that's a home run if I've ever seen it. You're taking him at an RB2, low RB2 level. I'm loving it. I mean, I'm buying that all day. The only reason I didn't get him in Paulie's playoff is because someone leapfrogged the shit out of me and took him in round 3.
Oh, that's kind of hot. You know, there's one thing with ETN that I don't love, and it's that foot injury. That worries me. You know, I'm a big injury guy.
Yeah.
I'm a big, if you have a big injury, I don't like that. I don't like to buy injuries at cost. But he is young, and clear workhorse role. James Robinson's out of the fucking picture. He tore his Achilles. He's not.
He's dead to you, right?
Like, people were like, oh, he practiced. And I was like, bro, he tore his Achilles in like week 15. What the fuck are you talking about? Don't be dumb. You don't need to be a degen just because you play fantasy football. He's also helped. He's not the most talented natural pass catcher. If you watch him catch, it looks like he's doing the Florida Gator chomp on the fucking ball like this. However, there's no real receiving options outside of Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and a 35-year-old Marvin Jones. That helps him immensely, too. He's going to have to mix it up in the pass game this year. And he would anyways, because he's explosive. It's just because you catch the ball kind of stupid doesn't mean you're excluded from the pass game. I think he caught the most passes in college over the last 2 years of his career, more than any other running back. If that made any sense. That was kind of a mouthful. But
they can coach that out of you. They can coach the stupid out of you. That's just.
Yeah, you can coach them on how to catch a football. All right, my next flag plant. I can't believe this guy was a flag plant for me. It was pretty ridiculous when I came to this conclusion. I have Ezekiel Elliott. ADP RB17 Ezekiel Elliott. He's had 40 or more receptions in each of the last 4 years, even with Tony Pollard coming into the picture.
See?
The offense is going to pass a lot. Dak Prescott is the highest level of Kirk Cousins that you could be. So he's going to check down, and that's very true. That's just how it is. Jerry Jones has already came out and confirmed that Zeke's going to have a role in this offense. That man's getting paid, I want to say, $17 million a year. They're going to use him. He's going to see at least 225 carries. I have him maybe touching 225, 230, 240 in that range. So enough to produce. Going to get all the goal line work. He saw the 5th most red zone touches in 2021. Never been under 11th in total red zone touches in his career. Zeke's actually really shockingly durable. He's played 17, 15, 16, 15, 10, and 15 games over the last 6 years. I don't think he's not going to be like the RB1. That's out of the picture at this point. He does have very much has some low end, like RB8 and on potential if he gets really good touchdown equity. And I think Pollard actually, just like I was saying with Aaron Jones, Zeke's 27, 28, and he's 26, something like that. He's been beat the fuck up over this last 8 years of football dating back to Ohio State. It's probably good he's not getting the ball 300 times. At RB17, I take that all day long. I love that.
I do too. Zeke, for the better part of the last half a decade's a guy that we were talking about in like the top 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
The top 5 picks every year, he was in there. And if something magical happened and you got him at 10, I mean, you really struck gold, right? Running back 17. I mean, he's still in that same category that we were just talking about, that Saquon, that, your second running back. I like him. He's got the highest floor out of guys like Saquon, guys like, I've seen James Conner going really early in some drafts. I would much rather have Zeke. My opinion on Tony Pollard, it's just something, every year there's these players that fantasy Twitter just blows up into being something more than what they really are. Everybody wants Tony Pollard to be a thing. But we've seen games where Tony Pollard was the only option, and he did not fucking do well. No. And he is best in that complementary role. Yes, Tony Pollard holds standalone value. There's probably only 3 or 4 of those guys in the league that are backup running backs that hold standalone value. I will admit that Tony Pollard is one of those, but it's not Tony Pollard time. It's not. They're paying. You're right. It's exactly that. They're paying Zeke $17 million a year. He was the first one to really just break the bank with a contract for a running back.
Yeah.
I remember that because it was like Zeke got it, turn around. Derrick Henry got it, turn around. McCaffrey got. It was boom, 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 but it all started with Zeke. And I love anybody who could catch a football in Dallas right now, right? Because CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz, I even like Jalen Tolbert. I like Zeke. All those guys are going to get a huge plus with Amari Cooper moving on, right? You are taking Ezekiel Elliott at his absolute low, and I don't see a scenario where he doesn't outperform his ADP by a lot.
Mm-hmm. I love Zeke this year. He's a steal.
Oh, down there? Yeah, dude. You're talking about that guy being your second running back? Absolutely.
Your next flag plant, mentioned him earlier, Dameon Pierce.
Love it. Like I was saying, for me, I mean, I try to get at least my 2 starting running backs semi-early in the draft. I never go by a specific, I'm going to take a running back in the first round. I'm going to take this. But within the first 4 rounds, I really should have both running backs, right? Because that's just the way it goes. If you don't, you're going to be left in the dust. For me, Dameon Pierce is a guy later on, depending on your format, your scoring, he's a guy that you can get past the 10th round. But it was really funny because I sat here the other night and John McClain, who was the Texans' longtime reporter, just recently retired, he posted a tweet that said, if Dameon Pierce isn't starting week 1, the Texans aren't putting out their best team. And then Matthew Berry took that and retweeted it and said cosign. And that's what I've been saying this whole fucking time, is he is the best running back on that team. I think he will be starting week 1, and for the foreseeable future. Even his preseason tape week 1, I don't like to overreact to preseason, but that shit looked good. I seen some Marshawn Lynch and I seen some rookie in him too. From what I was watching, he kind of bursted through the hole so hard that he kind of tripped himself up. That's a rookie mistake. He's only going to get better with time. So, like we were talking about, I like to get my first 2 running backs early, and my third one before I'm going to take a fucking J.D. McKissick, I'm going to take a Dameon Pierce, because I feel like there's a very clear path to him having some real value. And J.D. McKissick, you know how it is. You take him, you plug and play, and you hope to God that's the week that he gets 2 receiving touchdowns. Because it's either 24 or 6 points, and there's really no in between,
Yeah, I really like Dameon Pierce too, especially at RB40. Quite honestly, he has a chance to be the #1 scoring rookie running back this year. Burkhead and Marlon Mack will fizzle out relatively quickly. You hear from SEC folks all the time he was the best back in Florida and was used bad. 225 pounds, Chris Carson type. I like that when there's no other options. And I think the Houston offense is going to be better than people expect.
Oh, yeah.
The defense will be god awful, but I think the offense won't even be league average, but it'll be close at least. Better than people think.
I think we end up 5 to 6 wins. That's kind of where I'm putting it at. And
I bet you guys sneak up on one good team.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get one. I hope it's a good one. But yeah, no, they're definitely organizationally taking a turn. I've followed this team for a long time. Nick Caserio is a real deal. I'm not certain Lovey's the real deal, but it's definitely better than what we've had. And Pep Hamilton's gonna coach us to a better place. I mean, yeah, we need some defense though. Our defense is not looking very good.
My last flag plant, Javonte Williams, going at running back 12, finished last year at running back 22 in PPR points per game. Javonte last year, he had 43 receptions for 316 receiving yards compared to Melvin Gordon's 29 receptions. I think that discrepancy only will grow this year. I think Javonte steps into the more Aaron Jones type workload where it's a lot of red zone work, a lot of third down work, still some early down stuff, but he's going to get a lot of the high value touches, and then old Melvin's going to get the shitty ones. What people don't realize is, yes, they had like a 50-50 split last year, but the offense was terrible.
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater was leading it. The offense was bad. They didn't score a lot of touchdowns. They, quite honestly, ran a lot of, I'm going to hand it off inside and hope you get 5 yards. Like, it just wasn't conducive to scoring a lot of fantasy points anyway. So we really didn't get a good gauge of if Javonte could have any type of value pass, like a low-end RB1. If the offense is as good as advertised with Russ running it, Javonte can put up low-end RB1 numbers, even if the split's as close as 55-45. And it's going to at least be that. There's no way they go 50-50 this year. Javonte's just too good. Too good of an offense, too good of a player to have Javonte not play more snaps than Mel. If Gordon gets hurt, game over. This guy's already shown that he can produce crazy stat lines. In one game without Gordon last year, 23 rushes, 6 receptions, 170 yards, and a touchdown. Top 12 in juke rate, yards created, evaded tackles, all in his 212-pound frame. He's a monster, and he's lined up, even if he doesn't get all the work, he's lined up to get the high-value work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, he's easy. I've seen a lot of reaches on him, which is part of the issue for me. Is in so many drafts I've just seen him gone way higher than I would. I mean, we're talking like beginning of the second round type of thing. I understand it, but it's still just not my move. There is a potential outcome where that works. But yeah, I agree. Melvin Gordon, he's a guy that I would love to get a piece of in Dynasty, because right now, you can get him cheap, and I'd be all about it if it was me, because his value is only going to go up from here. I'm definitely in on him being the player. I was kind of surprised they brought Melvin Gordon back. I really am, because I mean, I hope the split is better than 55-45, personally. The only thing I believe Melvin brings to the table that Javonte can't do as well as Melvin is the receiving side. That's really the only edge Melvin Gordon has on Javonte Williams, is he can catch the ball a little bit better.
Yeah. Running back fades. Your first fade, Breece Hall. Why don't you like Breece Hall?
Because he is just going at a very disgusting ADP.
RB.
And RB what?
18.
Gross. So literally, so you're talking Zeke 17, he's 18. There couldn't be a bigger fall off, in my opinion, than Zeke to Breece Hall. Mm-hmm. Like we've said, the Jets are going to be the Jets. Everybody, here's what Saquon Barkley did for fantasy football. Saquon Barkley came out, blew it up his rookie year. Ezekiel Elliott blew it up his rookie year. So we've come to think that the first running back taken every year is going to do that. I'm here to tell you this is not the year for that. Breece Hall is in a very bad situation. Michael Carter is better than everyone is letting on. I mean, everybody's trying to make it to where, they drafted Breece Hall in the second round. Fuck Michael Carter. No, he's still a good football player. I just don't. I mean, RB18 for a guy who's playing in a bad offense, rookie to the NFL. His starting tackle just went out for the season. There's just not a lot of good things to point me to want to draft Breece Hall, like, at all. If he was available 13th, 14th, 15th round, maybe I'd give it a shot, but he is going way sooner than that, and it's just not it for me. I would take Zeke, I would take Saquon, and not even like. That's why I was glad I didn't draft early in the dynasty draft, because I didn't even want to have that thought come through my head, to be real honest with you. He is just not it for me. I mean, I watched his college tape. Yeah, he's good, but I don't think he's a generational talent by any means. And I'm not really sure how well his game is going to translate to the NFL. Yeah. So for me, at that price, I'm out.
He played in the Big 12, and people were comparing his numbers to Jonathan Taylor, and the difference is Jonathan Taylor was playing in the Big 10. I'm a KU fan. I watch a lot of Big 12 football. I can't remember the last team that I saw that had a good run defense, other than maybe Baylor last year. Maybe. Not really, but wouldn't hang my hat on some Big 12 rushing statistics. I don't like Breece Hall either this year. LaFleur is the offensive coordinator. It's going to be a committee. It's just going to be nasty. Don't like him. My first running back fade is Austin Eckler, going at the very steep price of RB3. Touchdown totals in his career. His first year he had 5, second year 5, third year 11, fourth year 3, fifth year 20. So he almost doubled his previous touchdown career high. Fantasy finishes 50, 28, 6, 9, 2 in those years. He's getting drafted in the top 5 of most drafts based off his true ceiling potential. I love him if he's RB6 or lower. Great value. Anywhere above that, you're paying a whole lot for a guy who's not going to see the same amount of red zone touches. He saw 63 last year, as opposed to a 33 touch career high before that. Isaiah Spiller's coming into camp playing the thumper role. Eckler's on record saying he wants someone to split carries with so he can play 5 more years. We know the split's coming. That red zone work's coming down. He's still going to put up a bunch of points. He'll have great boom games. He's not scoring 20 touchdowns this year. On that alone, I'm out at RB3. He's a great floor guy. Like, you know he's going to be an RB1, but Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, all 4 guys I like over Eckler this year based off of volume and potential alone.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm definitely out at RB3. If I'm sitting on the board, say I have the 4th pick, and say it goes JT, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, like I feel like it should, I'm instantly just going to pivot and go to Justin Jefferson. 100%. Najee, Eckler, all those guys are just not even, 3-4 range, not even in the conversation for me because there are too many question marks. Just high, the same reasons we don't like James Conner is the same reason we don't like Austin Eckler.
Yep.
Basically. I think Austin Eckler's got a hell of a lot more in his bag than James Conner does. But at RB3, I mean, you're picking, if you're talking about 3rd, 4th pick, you need that one to hit. And yeah. I'm not certain Austin, I mean, you're drafting him at his very peak. And just because last year he didn't get hurt, he's got a very deep injury history. And you would hate, I've been that guy, that took a high pick and had him get hurt like in a week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then you are really fucked.
Your next fade, 49ers running back Elijah Mitchell.
That's one of those things we've talked about before. I don't hate him at his ADP. I just really am just not a fan of the situation. I mean, in my opinion, he's going in that 3rd, 4th tier of running backs. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. But
so yeah, like 4th.
Yeah, 4th tier of running backs, and you could do a lot worse. But my opinion is, what we've talked about before is we don't really know how that's going to go. Could be Davis Pierce, could be Mitchell, could be Sermon, could be Wilson. Any given week, dude, I could see fucking Kittle running it in on one. You know what I mean? All those things go into a bag of Shanahan tricks. And I just really don't like – I think it's just coming to light that I just really don't like the 49ers for fantasy. They're the NFC version of the Patriots. They do the same shit. And if I was an NFL head coach, I wouldn't give a fuck about what your fantasy team thought either. But for that reason, I would be out on Elijah Mitchell. He put up great numbers last year. I think at some point we're going to get a little bit of Sermon. We're going to get a little bit of Debo. I think we're going to get a little bit of Wilson. I don't think it's his job to run away with. I don't think he's going to be the workhorse that everyone expects him to be. So that's why he's a favorite.
Yeah, he's already shown an injury issue. And guess what? That happens a lot in San Francisco because Kyle wants to run those fuckers 30 times a game.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see it sounds like from what's been put out, we're going to see a stylistic shift in how he uses his running backs in game, at least a little bit, where he'll have Sermon mix in and Wilson mix in and TDP mix in, more so than before. And you have Trey Lance. Think of him as a fifth running back. As long as he's in, he's going to carry the ball a lot. That's been a pretty consistent deal. Where does that leave Elijah Mitchell, who missed 4 games in 4 different weeks from 4 unrelated injuries last year? No
But
passing upside with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's just another touchdown dependent guy. Like, if he scores a touchdown, you're happy. If he doesn't, you're not. You don't want to load your roster with that. If I'm picking a running back in the top 30, I mean, at the back end, maybe I'm okay with that, but I prefer even like a Kareem Hunt.
right, to have some pass catching upside to at least counteract the dependency for a red. Yeah, that makes sense to me. But tell me, Kittle running it in on the one is something you'd never see happen.
Oh, I bet it could. I totally see that. And in the round, I can see Kyle getting real crazy and putting him at fullback. Just doing a fullback dive. All right, my next fade, I have James Conner. James Conner is currently going at the steep price of RB15 at underdog. Cliff Kingsbury's been talking up Eno and Darrell Williams. Both of those guys are honestly better than James Conner at this point. In 6 games without Chase Edmonds last year, James Conner averaged 26 points a game and caught 30 passes in that 6-game span. That's 81% of his receptions and 60% of his fantasy points scored in just a very small hair over a third of his games. He's a plotter, lacks efficiency, not very explosive. I hate James Conner, not as a person, but like I just don't get it. He's a huge fade for me. If he finishes, he's totally touchdown dependent. There's no way he scores 18 touchdowns again. He probably ends up hurt by the end of the year. I wouldn't waste my second running back spot on him.
No, absolutely not. And I always see these guys like James Conner, J.K. Dobbins, all these guys that kind of go in that same range. And I'm kind of I look at them and I'm like, I'm glad that's going to be on somebody else's roster because there's a lot of question marks there. To me, yeah, he's not going to score 18 touchdowns again. I mean, you got to realize that this is probably a make or break year for Cliff Kingsbury.
Yep.
I mean, if they go to the playoffs and they're one and done in the playoffs again, I'm betting it's the end of the run for him. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's a bad coach, but I think there's a lot of pressure on him, right?
I don't think Kyler likes him either.
He may not. I don't know. I don't know whose idea it was to put homework in Kyler's contract, but that kind of pissed him off. You know. But yeah, so ultimately he's a fade for me too. You love the fantasy points, and if you grabbed him last year late, hope for the best. It probably worked out for you. Don't be a recency bias person though. Huh?
The cost is the difference. Last year he wasn't this expensive.
No, and that's the same thing. Yeah, there's always going to be these players that blow up, but my message to everybody is don't be a recency bias person. I mean, you got to look at the player, you got to look at the situation. Do your homework so you can slap the shit out of your league mates every year. And that's one of those ones that I feel like is pretty easy. I mean, you ain't getting 18 touchdowns every year. You remember LeGarrette Blount?
I do.
He had that.
He had 23 one year for us.
Yeah, he had like 20 something. And then for probably 3 or 4 years after that, he still got drafted way too high. Even when he went on to go to the Eagles, and there was some year, and that's the thing that I've got to preach to people is recency bias will kill you in this game, in this sport. You got to be able to let go when it's time to let go. And when someone like, if I had Austin Eckler, I have 0 shares of Austin Eckler. I have 0 shares of James Conner. And if I did, I would have tried my damnedest to fucking sell those because you're selling at the highest point. It's like the stock market, right?
Yep.
You want to sell when it's at the absolute highest, and it's the same in fantasy. If I had either one of those, I would have been doing everything I can to get the fuck rid of it.
Your last fade, Antonio Gibson.
Holy shit. Oh, man. That even I sent you that a few days ago prior to the preseason action. I was already out on Antonio Gibson. He's a guy that's post-hype. There's still the truthers are still out there, right? There's some people that still love Antonio Gibson. I think he's a great player. I think if you took him, put him on the Chiefs, it might work out. It might be what Andy Reid thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to be. Sure. But where he's at, what he's doing ain't fucking working. There was a brief, maybe 3-hour span when we thought J.D. McKissick was going to Buffalo, right? However long it took him to be like, nah, never mind. I'm going to go back to the Commanders. Really weird. I've still got to train my brain to say the Commanders. But even without that, he is horribly inefficient. He's a plodder at best. Overhyped, overdrafted. Expectations are entirely too high. And personally, Brian Robinson's going to end up starting for that team probably in the third quarter of next year. There is no way around it, and he's going. I don't have the ADP numbers in front of me, but I've seen him going right around Clyde Edwards-Helaire, kind of in your 4th, 5th running back range. Just not worth it. I don't even see I'd rather have Ronald Jones. I'd rather have Dameon Pierce. I'd rather have somebody with a potential to produce. And he's just not that. And then you sprinkle in that little bit of information about how he went out and just completely shit the bed in a preseason game.
Yeah.
He would need to go out and completely dominate the next 3 preseason games to even. I mean, for me, he's like I will draft around this guy. Like, I'm not even sure I'd really want him on my roster at all.
Probably
To
not.
me, I don't really see a situation where he produces at all. Like, I draft for upside sometimes, especially once it gets later in the draft, and I just don't see upside. I see a point where he's probably going to get some work in the beginning of the season, but eventually Brian Robinson's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I think it's only a matter of time. I just think the writing's on the wall there. McKissick's going to get the 3rd down back role. Brian Robinson's going to get the short yard role. Antonio Gibson's going to be left with breadcrumbs. RIP to the truthers. Sorry for the noise a second ago. My phone was about to die right as we were towards the end here. My last fade, Najee Harris. I hate Najee Harris this year. I loved him last year. I was a big Najee guy. The deal is, though, this guy's been absolutely rode the last 4 years of football going back to college. Seen 100-plus touches his last 4 years. 200-plus his last 3. O-line's still bad. Offense is going to be worse. Big Ben isn't going to check down 94 times to him. Like, if he gets targeted 70 times, do you realize how much that brings his value down? He had 24 more targets over a 16 or whatever, 17-game span last year. That adds up. He's not going to get that. He was a value last year because he was cheap. He's not anymore. He's the RB6, so you're going to spend a lot on him. He's already 24, so he's 2, 3, 4 years away from peak age. Played a lot. I think there's just it's not even an injury thing. It's just like his efficiency is going to be bad. The O-line's bad. The offense is bad. What if he only scores 6 touchdowns, only catches like 55 passes, and only rushes for 1,000 yards? I don't think that's out of the picture.
So I'm looking at your corner right now, right?
Yeah, my phone was about to die.
So what the hell is this?
The corner.
Oh, okay.
It's Najee Harris's retirement home corner, to be exact.
So I agree with you. Najee Harris, where he's going is a little bit criminal. Here's the way the top echelon of running backs goes for me. I'd love to have Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, those guys. And then you go to the next group, which is Eckler and Najee Harris, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of missing that. I'd rather go with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, one of those guys.
Yep. I agree.
And let someone else have the headache, because Najee Harris, yeah, he runs in a particular way.
Yep.
To
Very
me,
violent.
that very violent, very. I think he's just susceptible to injury, and it may not be this year, but sooner or later it's going to hit him. Because he's a lot like we talked about. He's a Zeke, he's a Derrick Henry. That boy got some miles, right?
Yeah.
And that's just not something I'm confident at. What, RB4, 5?
Yeah. Yeah. 6. RB6.
6. Yeah, it's just something. I mean, my first round pick, I take a lot of time to think about it. I mean, I'm not a tight end in the first round kind of guy. I haven't done it yet, but I'm not opposed to. I'd rather have Mark Andrews than Najee Harris.
Yep.
Because that's more of a sure thing to me. You take in the weird quarterback situation. I think they got better at receiver. They got a lot of options to pass it to, and you're right. His receiving side was a lot of his production last year.
Yeah.
And I knew that because I had him on a team, and I literally his last receiving touchdown of the fantasy year is what put me to win the league. And it was like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened, but it did.
So to wrap up, I know we've hit an hour. We'll just finish with this. What was your favorite pick in Paulie's playoff in your draft?
It was a tough one. I mean, it really was. For me, I really like I had to punt receiver. Because they were going fast, they were going hard. I liked getting Aaron Jones in the third. I got Derrick Henry in the second, Aaron Jones in the third, Kyler Murray in the first. Just a really good start to it. It all went to shit after that because, like I said, every time I turned around, literally who I had in mind was gone. And then there was a couple times where I'm like, if that guy's still there in 3 rounds, I might pull the trigger, and someone else did. So, the whole your guys movement, draft your guys wasn't really working out for me. But yeah, I'd have to say Aaron Jones in third.
So my favorite, and I was in a good room. I had reasonable Kevin Thompson. I had all types of Pope's fantasy football hat, all types of actually pretty big analyst accounts. I got Christian McCaffrey at the 202. That was pretty nasty. That was probably my favorite pick. Some second round Christian. And I got Chuba and Deontay Foreman late in the draft. I have that whole RB room locked up.
Yeah, and that's really important. I mean, especially in drafts that go that deep. Because the last thing you want is to spend a high pick on Dalvin Cook and some other asshole has Madison. You know what I mean? Because then you're just fucked. But here's what I've learned is getting into some of these Superflex drafts, I've learned just from, Scott Fishbowl, where quarterback in my league wasn't really valued that that high. I mean, I got Trevor Lawrence in like the 8th round as my second quarterback. This one, I mean, they were going like mad. I mean, I think probably 3 or 4 of the teams went quarterback. So wrap around, I take Tua, and I don't love where I took him. I think it was 5th round, but I'm like, okay, and Trevor was already gone. And I'm like, either I take Tua or I'm left with this, right? And this is not good. You know, we're talking about bad things. The Daniel Joneses of the world, the fucking Jared Goffs of the world. So you really have to gauge your draft. You really have to see what is getting valued over what and make your decisions from there. Because Scott Fishbowl, I got Kyler Murray in the 1st, and I got Trevor in like the 7th or 8th round, and I feel really good about that. I end up with Kyler Murray in every draft, and I'm not mad about it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, my 2 are the inverse. My Scott Fishbowl draft, super aggressive quarterback. This one, I got Matthew Stafford in the 3rd round, and then Mac in like the 6th.
Love
Daniel
it.
Jones real late. Like, it was pretty nice to not have to draft quarterbacks. Anything else we want to talk about tonight?
You know, speaking of Daniel Jones, I haven't seen good things, buddy.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a journeyman.
I saw this one post, and it was like, tell me a backup who will be starting. The backup who will be starting first, and this guy was like, I'll start, and it was a picture of Tyrod Taylor. So I have to say I agree.
Yeah, I think Tyrod Taylor's better than Daniel Jones.
At this point, yes. They, you know, and if I'm them, maybe you pick up the phone and you get Jimmy G. That would be better.
Mm-hmm. No, and I've heard rumblings of that.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.